set up your own business, essentially what you're doing is you're providing a service to people for what you make. Whether you're selling a product, whether you facilitate things, finance, business, or whether you're selling things that people desperately need or filling that space. If you're not doing any of those things, if you just go to work earning your income and meeting your obligations, it's a zero sum. It's essentially doing in and out. I remember my very, very, very first proper job after I graduated here in Gbadamosi. The entire pay was about 8,400. So you made about £700 before tax, and after tax was about £600. And by the time you pay for your housing and your rent, at that time you were owing £20, it's like that. So, if you look at it on those bases, it is very hard to save one, and it is very hard to invest. So a lot of us will live day by day and we do not invest anything. But you see, the Bible says nothing is given unto man unless it's given from what? From heaven. But the Lord has already provided the avenues to do these things for us. But what is now up to us is for us to take advantage of each one of those things. So it's going to lead me to this very short saying. In finance, some people are experts. Some people are not. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter when you got into it. What matters is to get into it, because it's going to lead me to number two. The number two thing is called time value of money, TVM. I'm going to talk about time value of money a little bit because statistically, let me use these few age groups as examples. If you're 25 and you start to invest, if you get into investment at age 25, let's say most people when they finish A levels, they're about 18, thereabout, and you go to university. At uni, you spend another 3 years, 4 years. Let's say you're about 22, you enjoyed yourself immensely. And for about 3 years, you just feel you don't owe anybody anything. That means some people call it gap year. Some people call it the time when you just sow in your royal oats. At 25, the £100 per month that you save at 25 or you invest at 25, if you do not do it at 25, by the time you get to 35, you're going to need £200 just to catch up to what should have been here. If you don't, at age 45, you're going to need $450 per month. And if you don't do it, at 55, you're going to need $700 a month just to catch up. And I'm going to show us graphs in a minute that will help us understand. The reason is that for every investment that you do, there are two things that you have to watch. One is called the return on investment, ROI. Please let us make note of that phrase. It's called ROI. ROI means return on investment. Let me share a couple of these handouts with us in case you don't have them. Okay. So the ROI is important. Write that down. The ROI means your return on investment. So every time you invest money and you get some kind of return, what you start to do is that fund or that return that you get is now reinvested. So you're going to start to hear phrases like compounding. Compounding means that, let's say you invest £100 and at 1%, 1% is £1. So at the end of that year, it's no longer £100, it's now 101. So the following year, that 101 is no longer 101 because it has earned a percentage interest. It's not going to be 102, it's going to be 102 point something. So the earlier, what financial advisors will always tell you is that the earlier you start, the better. I'm going to have all of us, if you have your cell phones or if you have phones here, go to MSN Money. Let me know where you are there. MSN Money. I'm going to guide you so that you could see the impact of money and what it does for you. So if you go to MSN Money on your phones, let me know when you're there. So it's msnmoney.com. At the top end, you will see a few tabs. Please click on Other Tools. Are you with me? Can you see it? No. Just wait. Don't click on anything yet. Just click on Other Tools. Then you will see a few options there. There's a drop down. Just click on Tools there. So when you click on Tools, what you want to do is you want to now click on what is called Value of Money. Remember, I used the phrase TVM, Time Value of Money. When you bring that down, okay? Mommy, are you there? If you go to MSN Money, if you click on that, when you click on that MSN Money, scroll down to the end, then you will see Tools. Okay? So here's what we want to do. When you click on Time Value of Money, it talks about what is called the present value of money. It talks about the future value of money. Meaning that whatever that £1 is today, in the future, whatever that future time is, it's not going to be the same amount of money because of what we call inflation. Inflation over a period of time would make the value of money go less and less and less. But let me show you one quick example. So where it says monthly investment, let's say you want to put 100 pounds there. Did you see it? The stock markets in most places the returns can go up, it could go down. Sometimes you could even lose money. But historically, in United Kingdom, they will give you what we call 8%. Even it's for only analysis. So change that 2.5 to 8%. You remember that I mentioned the phrase compounding. Now, does your money compound on a monthly basis or does it compound on an annual basis? Typically, it's annual basis. So select yearly. Okay, so let's say you start that investment it's like seed money. You have to start it with an amount of money, and then you start to put something on top of it every month. So in this case, they put 1,000. So let's leave it at that, 1,000. So I want to take it from age 25. Are you with me? I want to take it to 35. So change it to 10 years, and then click calculate. Yes, just leave it at 10 years. So did you see that blue caption there? It says, with the present value of 1,000 and monthly investment of £100 over a 10-year period, it will give you 19,543. Mommy, can you see it? Mommy. I shall have phone separately. Or Ellie was or why you? So hello laptop. Are you guys getting it so far? Wonderful. Daddy, you getting it? Okay. So Teba fee for every £100 that you put in there, starting it with 1,000, is telling you that in a 10-year period, that is what it will give you. It will give you 19,543. So let's say by the time you're 35, you already have 19,000 in your pocket. Let me ask you, how long would it take you to spend £100 today? Like this. Like this. So imagine now, every month you just take down £100. You know, since I'll spend it anyway, you just slide it somewhere and just leave it. And then you come back in 10 years and you get a check for $19,543. Is it beginning to make sense? Now, let's say for whatever reason, you say, you know something? I'm not even going to do anymore. I'm comfortable with that £100 because I have other commitments. I'm looking after my parents. I have a young child. I have this, I have that. Change that 10-year, change it to 20. Are you with me so far? So if you change it to 20, for example, click calculate. Calculate. So in 20 years, you see what we are talking about. You started here and you kept that your £100. You have not even increased it. In 20 years, you will now have £59,575 in your account. Let me say this to you. Historically, some funds have performed as high as 12, 13, 14, 15%. Let's see what happens to our 25-year-old friend when he turns 55. That means he's in 35 years. Change it to 35 and click calculate. How much is it in 35 years? £221.566. Just £100. So let me show you, how do you become a millionaire? Let's change the numbers a little bit. Mommy, Emma Bonwaju. Okay. So let's change the numbers a little bit. Let's say you consider what you take to lunch. A good lunch here is how much now? £7? Okay. So let's say in a week, 5 times 7 is 35. So at the end of the month, 35 multiplied by 4 is about 140. So let's say you decide to pay yourself first. Don't forget that phrase. Pay yourself first. So you say, okay, you know what? I don't want to struggle. By the time I'm 65 or I'm 60, the retirement age right now in the UK is 60, 65, 67. Okay, let's say this thing, now I've come to enjoy it. Change the monthly payment to 500. Still leave it at 8%. Leave everything else. And then leave it over a 35-year period. Click calculate. It's £1,048,686. If you have £1 million in your account, if you take £1 million and divide it over a 20-year period, what does that give you? So take 1 million, just take 1 and 6 zeros, divide it by 20. It gives you £50,000 to live on every year. Don't forget, you're still going to have your pension at your job, or you're still going to have what is called state pension. So if you look at what you have at that time, and you retire and you have £1 million, guess what? You have enough money to live until you die. More than enough. Because if you are blowing 50,000 a year, that's about 4,000 a month. Don't forget, by the time you retire, your commitments are much less. You're not buying bus pass. You already got your freedom pass. Now, you're not buying clothes every day or every week. You're not buying shoes. Do you understand? So the bottom line is, with time value of money, the earlier you start, the better. That is the point. So it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter where you're at. But the key is that you get started on time. Write down this phrase. It's called consistency. In investment, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, it's a waste of your time and my time. The reason why you have to be consistent is this. You cannot invest in a way that you time the market. Some people try to do that. If you time the market, you will lose, because the market is up and down, up and down, up and down. So you're going to, in terms of consistency, you could say, I get paid on the 20th. By the 30th is my commitment day. So the 30th of every month, that is when that £100 or £200 or whatever that you have. Or you could even start small. Start with £20. With £20, it's like you missed 2 days of lunch, and you're not really missing 2 days. You just take leftover from home. So 2 days, you throw £20 there. Next week, 2 days, you know something? I'll just take something from home. Now you've gone from £40 to, you've gone from £20 to £40. If you continue to do it like that, take extra sandwich, just 2 days, a week, at the end of the month, that's your £100 right there. Even if you take kebab right now, and I've had kebab since I got here, kebab is $7. And that's because you didn't add drink. If you add drink, it's £8. So 2 days during the week, you know what? I just take leftover from yesterday. I just ask the wife, is there any rice there? I throw chicken on top of it. When you get to work, most jobs now, you have a microwave. You slide it in, 5 minutes, you slide it back out, and just knock your stuff out. Some people might be, oh, you're not going to lunch with us today? Oh, you cheapskate. They will be the ones who will be pouring your drink 25 years afterwards. Because why? They failed to invest. Are you with me so far? The third thing which is very important that we're going to talk about is called the budget. The budget is your compass as to how your money is allocated every single month and every single year. Let me ask a question. For those of you who are newly married, how much do you spend on food a month? Yes, on groceries. Okay. If you speak to a financial advisor, they will be really angry at you when you say probably. That means you're not following your budget. The first thing that you have to do, I need something to wipe this thing down. The first thing that everybody should do is to have a budget. Please write that down. And the reason why you have a budget is this. You have to know where your money is going into. Don't forget, you work for this money. And when you work for this money and you spend it without understanding the allocation of your funds, guess what? You won't have a good idea as to how your funds are spent or allocated. Thank you. So, there should be two types of budget. There should be what is called the family budget, and there should be a personal budget. When people have, like with Christmas, people have what you call Christmas goals. People set goals for the new year. I'm going to lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds. How long do you think that lasts? A few days? A week? And you just forget about it. But with budget, when you have a budget, it is something that you are going to try really hard to stick to. First, what do you pay in rent? Rent or your mortgage? Why? If you don't pay rent, you live on the street. So you have to pay it. Think about your food. Gas, water, light, or electric. If you don't put electric on, whether it's charged or you pay every month, what's going to happen? Baby can't sleep. You can't iron your clothes. You can't even charge your phone. You think about petrol. Are you with me? So everything that you spend money on, you list it. When you list everything that you spend money on, then the next thing is to see what is the total. So let's say in this case, you put everything down, and every month your total expenses is 2,500. So the next thing I'm going to ask you is, how much is your income? If your income is 2,000, it means there's a problem. I'm talking about family budget now. You and your wife or your spouse or significant other. Because if your expenses is more than your income, you're going to have to start using credit card. And that is not a good thing. So you may have to take a part-time job to augment things, or until that promotion comes through, and now you reverse this trend. That means that the income is a little bit more. That would give you the opportunity to save more. But I'm going to use a phrase here. PYF. Pay yourself first. In any type of situation, you must pay yourself first. Because why? You're the one that goes to work. Without you, the income is not there. Without your wife going to work or your spouse, the income is not there. Thank you. The reason why you pay yourself first is this. Let's say your income is 3,000. Yeah? That's your monthly income. Who's the person that brings in this bacon? You. So the first thing you do is you pay yourself. You might decide, what am I worth? I'm worth 300 pounds. So every month, before I take anything out at all, I'll pay myself first. Because why? If you are not there, how's that 3,000 going to come through? Or if your wife is not there working, that 3,000 will be what? Zero. So you put that aside before you put all this in place, your tithes, your offering, everything you listed. Then you start to take a fine look. You'll be shocked. These young married folks who said 100 pounds, you now realize that you are actually spending 250. It's like, Why? Now you cook rice. Instead of one scoop, you're cooking 3 scoops. Guess where the other 2 scoops are going? In the bin. Now you start realizing that you're wasting money. Also, if you write down these things, some of the things that you could add is, how much do you spend eating out? If you go to Enish and you eat that their nice tilapia, it's 25 pounds. You eat that 4 times in a month. Oof. You see that there's a problem. Because you could get that fish for 6 pounds. Yes or no? You have that fish sauteed real good, sprinkle all the usual things on it, slide it in the oven. By the time you take off your shirt and all that type of stuff, the thing will slide itself out. So instead of paying 6 pounds, now you're paying 25 pounds, and then you give the lady a tip. She just smile. There's a problem. So if you're going out 4 times a month, you got to tell your wife or tell your husband, we got to dial this thing back somewhat. Maybe we should play some games at home, talk at home, and look for ways to put this budget in line. Are you with me so far? That is why your individual budget and the family budget is important. Don't forget, one of the things you could put there is travel. Because there has to be a work-life balance. You don't necessarily have to fly to really enjoy yourself. There are places in England that you go to that you have fun with the kids. But you know what a lot of people do? My son needs a new jacket. Guess what? What's that logo? The one that, not Face or something Face? Not Face. Not Face, yeah. The same jacket that is 20 pounds somewhere, they'll pay 45 pounds for it. Guess what? Little Fifi is only 4 years old. You think she's going to remember that jacket in 10 years? No. Most of you were raised with products from Mother Care. Is Mother Care still in operation? No. Are you worse off because you were raised on Mother Care stuff? No. But people will buy Louis Vuitton, what do you call it? Pampers now, even if it's possible. So you think the kid is going to take off that Louis Vuitton and show their friends, I got Louis Vuitton Pampers? No, they're not even going to remember it. But then we'll spend money that is unplanned. And when you start to spend money that is unplanned, you're headed for financial trouble. Because your expenses are more than your income. And that is trouble. And you know what causes a lot of marriages to break down? Money. Arguments over money. Because some people have joint accounts, or some people have sole accounts. Every time you go and look at your account, it's zero. And write this down. Do not pay bank fees. You must make it a habit to not pay the bank. If the bank charge you even 5 pounds overdraw, or for you to overdraw your account, you need to close that account. It means there's a problem. One, there's no bank that does not make money. It's never happened. They make money. Billions. NatWest got taken over by Royal Bank of Scotland. When they ran into the issues, guess what? The British government stepped in. They gave them money. Yes or no? And when things got better, they paid the government back. Guess what? Even when Nationwide ran into a problem, guess what? They got bailed out. Bradford and Bingley, building societies. They step in. Do you think the bank really needs your money? No. You're a small fry. Yours is just extra change. So if the bank knows you by name, unless you are high net worth, that means you have at least 400,000 in your account, you need to move. Because you are now paying for something that you should get for free. But what causes a lot of those issues? The lack of a budget. Some people are very close and used to just dishing it out. At the end of the month, they realize that they're worse off than they started. Monthly budget will lead you to annual budget. When you have seasonal items, you'll be able to put it like lawn care. Those ones will come in May, June, July, all the way to October. Some things are not seasonal items. So you could always adjust your budget. But your heating costs are going to be there. You're not going to wear 4 jackets at home. No, that's not the way to live. But then the budget will be your guide. Any questions so far? Should I continue? Okay. Let's talk about assets. How much are you worth? Do you know how much you're worth? Yeah? Does anybody know how much they're worth? Ha! Hallelujah. You must know what you're worth. By assets, we mean what you have. Excuse my drawing. In terms of your total money that you have, minus your expenses, will provide you with your net asset. So let's say in this entire life you have 20,000 pounds in your account and you owe 12,000 pounds in student loans. Your net asset is that 8,000. So that 20,000 pounds, don't jubilate on it. Because why? You still owe money that has to be paid. So you must think about what is called your assets. So you need to list your expenses. Let me ask you, Mr. Wanebu, is your phone yours? It's yours. Completely yours. Is it paid off? Good. Mr. Bartlett, is your phone yours? Okay. My phone is not mine. My phone belongs to Sprint PCS. Because why? Yes. If I don't pay, do you know what happens? They cut it off. And since I can't talk right now, it's just one day. One day without a phone is like, ha, Jesus. You quickly run there and go and pay it. And that is how we get ourselves into a pickle sometimes. Because we buy things that we honestly don't need. And this is what I want to give us as a food for thought. You must understand what is your net asset. Your net asset means that you must list everything that you own and you must list everything that you owe. So what you own less what you owe is what is your net asset. That is how much you're really worth. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. No. To get to the net asset. Okay. You see, thank you, sir, for the question. When you're trying to get to your net asset, you have your income from your job is a continuum, meaning that when you go to work, they pay you. You don't go, they don't pay you. What you have in terms of savings, what you have in terms of investments, what you have overall, you're going to add that. Now, let's take a look at a couple of things. Let's say after you had everything that you have in your account, you have 5,000. Now, you have a car. And on that car, you owe 4,000. Are you with me? Let's say when you take that 4,000 that you owe, let's say you don't pay them. You decide, you know what, I'm just not going to pay these people again. What do you think is going to happen? They'll take it. So, is that car an asset now, or is it a liability? It's a liability. Because if you don't pay it, they will take it until you cut them the last check and they release what is called the lien on it, then it's not really yours. In that case, you take that 5,000 less how much you owe the bank, the 4,000, then your net asset is 1,000. That means that if you shake everything, this is what you're left with. Am I a little bit clearer, sir? Because what the income does for you is this. Even if you get that 3,000, say 35, 36,000, for the sake of argument, that's 3,000 a month, you still have obligations that are going to come out of that 3,000. If you pay each one of those obligations, what you have left at the end of the month, let's say it's 200 pounds, that is actually what you have as net for that month. So that net cannot go into your asset pool. So instead of you having 5,000 before, now you have 5,200. But don't forget, if you have obligations, without paying those obligations, you are not home and dry. Are we with me? So, it is important that we know precisely what we have in terms of assets and what we have in terms of liabilities. Liabilities are not money that you send to people in Nigeria. That is just gift. Don't forget there's forceful gift and there's cheerful gift. Your parents will understand what I mean by a forceful gift. When people call and you don't have a way, you just have to send them money because they desperately need it. But here's what is important for all of us. You must know what you're worth. If you don't know your true worth, you're just filaffling, as they call it. You're just getting shoved here and there by the wind. Because some people think they're worth a lot of money. Our president in America, everybody said he was a billionaire until somebody came out and said, no, he's not even worth 400 million. Why? Because he owes this, he owes this, he owes this. Everything that he financed, guess what? He owes them. So by the time you take each one of those expenses or obligations out, the man is not worth as much as that. Do you understand? So you may see somebody that is wearing a Rolex watch, and they bought the Rolex watch for 4,000, 5,000. Guess what? It's busy. By the time you take that out of those net income that they have or net assets that they have, guess what? They're better off taking that watch back to the store and say, don't worry, I'll buy a Timex for 15 pounds. Just seize the time. Or better just take your phone and look at the time there. So what is the point in buying Apple Watch for 400? It look nice, but you can afford it. Is it necessary? I don't know. But it gives you a lot of happiness, makes you really happy. But then, can you afford it? As Christians, we cannot afford to live like that. It's like you're living on borrowed times. Let's take a break. Should we take a 5 minutes break? Okay, let's take 5 minutes. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to talk about credit score. Let me just give you a quick background on credit score. You've heard of the word FICO score. Yes? You see, FICO means Fair Isaac Corporation. It's a San Jose, California company set up in 1956 by a gentleman by the name Bill Fair. Bill was an engineer and his partner, Earl Isaac, was a mathematician. What they decided to do was that they wanted to gauge people's ability to pay debt back. Don't forget, a lot of people like to borrow money. Borrowing money is very easy. Paying it back is a problem. So what they started to do was to see, based on when you borrow the money, how often you pay it back. Are you paying it back based on the arrangement? Are you paying enough? Or are you paying more? So the guys that designed this company, they named it after themselves. They call it Fair Isaac Corporation. They now were the folks who started all this credit score business. So these days, you need to have a minimum score to be able to borrow money. In our home country, you need to know people before you approach the bank. If your credit is good, you don't need to know anyone. Because based on your credit and things like that, they know that you will pay back. If you have a credit score of less than 600, you're going to pay more in interest. If your credit score is more than 600, you're going to get a good deal. If it's more than 700, you're even going to get a better deal. So, before you go and borrow money, check what is your credit score. There are certain things that affect your credit score. First, you need to register on the electoral roll of where you live. They need to be able to trace you. If you don't register on the electoral roll, you could lose as much as 24 points. Yes. So if you live somewhere, go to the council, find out where you could register to vote, and put yourself on the electoral roll. So here's what I want us to know. You need to know your credit score. These days it's available through most banks, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. But when you know your credit score, let me advise us. It is important that if you borrow money, you must pay it back. If you don't pay back, every time you miss payments, there's a negative against your name. There's a negative against your national insurance number. And it becomes harder to borrow money. And if they borrow you the money, they will charge you the earth. While I'm on this topic, I want to say one thing. For those of you who have credit cards, you must use credit cards. I know a lot of us will go, basic. It's not basic. You're going to use other people's money to build yourself. Unless you inherited a lot of money, you need to be able to establish the trust between yourself and the bank. So you take your credit card. If you don't have one, go and apply. So what you start to do with your credit card is you may just buy something worth £20 every month and pay it back. All they want to see is history. Over a 6-month period, when they see that you use it, you pay it, you pay it, guess what? Your credit score will start to go up. So don't take your credit card and hide it. They want to see that you have the ability to use credit and pay it. So be responsible with your credit card.
Question, sir.
Yes, sir.
So say, for example, you have your credit card, so you buy something for £20, just
Yes.
for example, and then what would you say is the amount of time, how can I phrase this? When would you say you would need to pay it back before it starts becoming noticeable from the bank? Because, for example, you could use £20 and then pay it back 1 minute later. Is that something that the bank will look at and think, okay, responsible, or would they look at that and think he's just trying to be smart, trying to circumvent the system, maybe?
That's a very good question. If you look at your statement or when you signed up for the credit card, there's what is called the paying cycle. On the paying cycle, some banks allow you up to 28 days, some even allow you up to 45 days to pay it back. There is nothing that prevents you from paying it back before those dates. So, let's say your paying cycle when your credit card is due is on the 28th of the month. You could pay it on the 27th, you could pay it on the 1st. The bank does not care. Because, don't forget, for each transaction that they have a certain amount of money that they make on those credit cards. That is why some places, when you go and shop, they tell you they don't allow American Express. Because American Express tend to charge a little more. So, you're not doing the bank any favors by paying them on time. All they want is to get their money back. Bank doesn't really care about anyone. be there to make money. So whether you pay back the first day, whether you pay back that same afternoon, and I've done that so many times, or you pay back the next week, they frankly don't care. It's not going to affect you negatively. Are you with me? Okay. Now, you have to get out of debt, which is the next topic, debt. They say there are two things that are guaranteed in this life. One is debt, DEBT, and taxes. There's no way you're not going to pay taxes unless you are HMRC, Her Majesty's. So here's the thing. From the day you were born to the day you go, taxes are certain. And if you don't pay it, they have a way of taking it. So, this is what you need to do. You got to get out of debt. If you have debt, you have to structure it. You have to write down every debt that you have. And then, as we talk about budget, prepare how you're going to start to pay it off. Because if you don't pay it off, it's going to affect your credit. So you call each one of your credit agencies that you owe money to. Listen, you guys tell me that I need to pay £100. I don't have £100, but I can pay £50. They would agree. But just make sure that if you say £50, the £50 is not 49. You pay as agreed. Don't forget, every time you pay, the longer you pay, the better for them because they're making more money. And don't be shocked that a lot of banks will pay you 1%, 2%, if that, and they charge you 28% on your credit card. So for every £100, let's say I go to my sister here and give her £100. Today is the 28th, and I tell her next month, bring me back the money. But when you bring the 100, you're going to bring me 128. Won't she call me an extortioner? But that's what we do. We pay the bank. And we don't call them names. We even go there joyfully. We are very happy when we go to the bank. I'm going to the bank. You go and spend money with somebody and you really are happy. So, I want us to also remember one thing while we're talking about this. It's called emergency fund. Emergency fund. I know Christians don't like to hear this phrase. It's not that anything bad is going to happen. It's just that as Christians, we must have money set aside when things happen. If you drive a car, the car is not going to give you notice that the engine is going to pack up. No. The car is not going to tell you that it's going to break down. But when your car breaks down and you have to go to the mechanic, guess what? You have to pay. If your job is the type that you need a car, do you have a way of negotiating that? No. Whether you have it or not, you have to pay. So one of the things that you do is to have emergency fund. But the reason behind the emergency fund is because of job loss. So if you lose your job, you have money that can keep you until you get another job. That is the principle behind emergency fund. Some advisors will say you should put 3 months worth of money in emergency savings, or even 6 months. But depending on your skill set, if your skill, for example, people who work for National Health Service, they're in high demand all the time. There's a good chance that if you lose your job, you may not have to wait 3 months to get another one. But if you get another one, they may not be paying you what they're paying you before. Do you understand? So it's good to have something there. So let's say your total expenses is 3,000 a month. 3,000 multiplied by 3 is, you should have 9,000. But don't forget, 9,000 is not a chicken feed. But you start it, maybe it's £10, £20. Just know that that particular account is called emergency fund. Not because I'm a little broke. Oof. Let me just tap 50 from this thing. It's not meant for that. It's meant for true emergencies. Any questions so far? All right. We're going to go into investment vehicles. When I say investment vehicles, what I mean is that what are the types of investments that are out there? In terms of investments, so I'm going to go through this very long list One is savings. Savings is as simple as just going to the bank and putting your money in there. The banks are very smart these days. They will call it e-saver, u-saver, whatever saver that they call it, and they will give you 0.01%. What they are saying is they don't need your money. If you put 2,000 in the bank and at the end of the year they give you 6 cents, you're doing great. What they're saying is that they don't need your money. They have enough of their own. You understand? And don't forget, whatever that they give you in interest, they have to take taxes off it as well. So as I said, one thing that is sure is you're going to pay taxes. Some people think they don't pay taxes. Yes, you do. Trust me. So there's CD. CD means certificate of deposit. With CDs, it means that you put down a certain amount of money for a length of time. It could be 6 months. It could be 1 year. You and the bank, you agree that I'm going to have this money over to you. Whether it's 0.5%, they typically will pay a little bit more than savings. But in those 12 months, you cannot come back. So make sure whatever money that you put in CD, you're not going to need it. But if you go to the bank at 9 o'clock and you're casting and binding in front of the bank, it's not going to change anything, because that's not what you signed. Options. You have what is called ISA. We all know about ISA. It's a government regulated one. There's an opportunity to put some money in savings. And guess what? You could open an ISA for as little as £1. So if you're not doing an ISA for yourself, you could do it for your kids, you could do it for your grandkids, and just be putting, you know something? Oh, Fiona, you made me so happy today. Just open your laptop, throw £5 in there for. Property investments. That is where you buy houses on what is called buy to let. Properties are one of the most solid investments anywhere in the world. Because as long as people are born, people are going to live somewhere. So, if you're able to get into property ladder through what is called buy to let, guess what? It's going to be rough to begin with, because nothing good ever comes easy. But when you weather the storm, guess what? Properties, you're going to have increases in the value of the property, and you're going to gain rental income. And that rental income, when the house is paid off or when the apartment is paid off, guess what? You're not only a homeowner, you now have rental income that could be part of your retirement savings. You have what is called mutual funds. Mutual funds essentially basically is that everybody puts some money in that fund, they pool all the money together and buy on behalf of us. Let's say the share price of Apple right now, let's say it's £500 each. I may not have £500 to invest, but I have 100. So I give them the 100 and take 50 from this person, take 250 from this person, and so on, add it together and buy one share of Apple, so I have 0.20% of Apple. So if they say who are the owner, who are the shareholders of Apple, me too. Me too. Do you understand? So that's what mutual funds company do. I'm going to give us a few names of investment vehicles in a second. You also have what is called unit trusts. For those of you who do not know, in England, it is one of the best things that you could do. Why? During your employment life, if for every £100, the government will pay £29 back into it. That is why they limited the amount you put in unit trust a year to 3,600. You cannot put more than 3,600. Because you're using what is called after-tax income. Because you're already taking tax. So whatever that you put in there, the government will put that tax money that you already paid, they will put it back in there. When you now cash it out, and right now it's age 55, they're taking it to 56. When you not cash it out, that is when you pay taxes. But at that time, you might be retired. So your tax bracket at that time is lower than your current tax bracket. Let me say that again. Unit trusts are one of the best investments out there, although the maximum that you could put in there is 300 per month maximum. You have what is called annuities, which is basically you save over a period of time. When you retire, that money now is paid to you because you now put in a lump sum money and they pay you money until you die, or it passes over to your spouse. It never passes to kids. You have what is called ETF. ETFs are what are called exchange traded funds. You have bitcoins, you have cryptocurrency, you have commodities like oil, like gold, you have forex. I can tell you today, the pound today is at a 21-month low. I was showing the Deputy Shabbat earlier on today. With the war in Ukraine and with Russia, Gazprom, Russia has already cut off 2 countries now, saying they're not going to supply them with gas. Guess what? Every economy in Europe is worried now, especially those who are getting their gas from Russia. So the pound took a shellacking today. So if you had money today, let's say the pound as of 2 weeks ago against the US dollar was £1.31. Today it was trading at 1.24. So it dropped by 0.7. So you put in a ton of money right now in terms of forex, buy it and just wait. When it goes back up, you sell it back into the market and you make your money. The money does not leave your account. You don't have to sweat it. So you buy it right now. And part of what is happening is because Bank of England is changing what is called the base rate for interest. Every time the interest rate goes up, people pull off or pull back from buying properties. Do you understand? So sometimes exchange rate mechanisms change based on sentiments and things that are happening out there. But I caution this. Make sure that you understand what you're trying to get into before you do so. Okay? There's stocks, as we mentioned as well, and there's bonds. Stocks basically means that you're lending your money to a company to trade, and in return, you become a shareholder of that company. You keep it for as long as you want, you sell it, and you get your money out. Bonds are basically you're loaning money to the government. There's what is called money bonds. So when you loan your money to the government, they use your money to finance projects, blah, blah, blah. And when those projects are done, whatever that they have in terms of income, they start to pay folks back. Because of time, I'm going to move to insurance. I need us to write a couple of things down before I do that. If you want to buy investments, so please write this down. You could go to Nutmeg, NUTMEG.co.uk. You have what is called HSBC Global. You have another company, it's called Hargreaves Lansdown. Let me spell that. HARGREAVES. Lansdown, LANSDOWN. That company is based in Bristol. It's a very reputable company. That's what is called Money Bix. Money, MONEYBIX. There's Fidelity International. There's IG Share Dealing. There's another company called eToro. ETORO. There's what is called Plus 500. And there's Capital.com. Just Google them. There's a ton of company online. But watch this. That's what is called 12(1)(b) fees. That's how they make their money. When you read, look at their fees first. They charge you based on the amount that you invest. And sometimes it may be like 0.2%, 0.45%, this and that, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, in terms of insurance, there's two types of insurance I want us to be aware of. There's what is called term life, and there's what is called whole life. When I taught this class at our parish in Detroit, Michigan, somebody told me I don't want to do insurance because I'm afraid to die. Having life insurance does not mean you are about to die. What life insurance does is to mitigate losses in case of somebody's passing. But there are two types. The term life has a value for the deceased person's family. Do you understand? Whereas whole life has a financial value at the end of the period. So if you do a term life, typically it is cheaper than whole life. The idea is that if that person kaputs, the family will get some money to take care of themselves after the person is gone. Whole life, on the other hand, is a little bit more expensive, but the idea is that it has a residual financial value. So if you have it for 15 years, at the end of 15 years, there's a cash out. Are you with me? So one has a cash out. It's good while you're still here. The other one does not have a cash out. It's only cashed out if that person dies. And they have certain stipulations. You can't go and kill yourself. It will invalidate the policy. You can't go and do bungee jumping. You know, insurance don't want to pay to begin with. You understand? So they have certain stipulations if those things are fulfilled. Let me say this. For everybody that has loved ones, you should consider some kind of life insurance policy. Do you understand? Because if I ask you, without your income right now, would your family be able to cope? If your family would not be able to cope without your income, then you need to consider doing something for them. It's a myth that somebody is going to die. Do you understand? One would not die before their day. Do you understand? People have this myth that if you have life insurance, it's like you're about to die. It's not. Do you understand? I've had a life insurance that 15 years later has expired. I have another one right now. The thing with life insurance is that the older you get, the more expensive that it gets. Because when you're young, you know you're fit, you probably are exercising, and you don't have six-pack like mine. So typically it's cheaper. Do you understand? But when you get older, then they want to ask you about your medications, they do blood tests, and they go, this one. So they tend to charge a little more. So it is better to do life insurance when you're younger than when you're older. Okay. We got 3 more topics to go. Estate planning. With estate planning, everybody must understand that this life is much more of a transition thing. And you have to plan for tomorrow. And part of what you do by doing that is you have what is called power of attorney. Okay? Power of attorney simply is there to protect you if you're not able to make decisions on your own because of any type of incapacitation. So it is better to have what is called a durable power of attorney. Because if somebody dies without a will, which is the next thing, why it is important to have a will. If you die without a will, they say you die intestate. That means that that person did not leave instructions on how you want your assets to be shared. Guess what? The government would have to make that decision for you. The government is not going to make it free. Somebody has to pay somebody. And typically they will take it off that person's asset. So whatever that you leave for your loved ones may not even be enough after they have paid taxes. And here's the bad side. If you die intestate, you could pay as much as 40% in taxes, depending on how much asset you leave. So if you leave an asset worth 600,000, 6 times 4 is 24. So the government could easily take as much as 240,000. Guess how much it costs to do a will? $19.99. That's it. There's a company called Legacy Wills. It's an online company. It costs you $19.99. So you could do a will for $20. So I give your money away. Yes, ma'am. Trust? Yes. I'm going to come to that in a second, ma'am. So, the power of attorney, wills, probates, and trusts. Trust means that you made a decision that upon that person's demise, that this person or this persons would be able to act on your behalf. You have to state that as well, if you choose to do so. For those who have a lot of assets, and you know the kids are behaving one kind, it's always a good thing to have things put in trust. The reason why some people put it in trust is when their kids are young or they're small, they put it in trust until the kids are mature, like they get to 30, they get to 35. Because if I'm 20 and my dad passes and they just give me 600,000 pounds, the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting myself a BMW. I don't even care how I get the money to buy the gas, let alone insurance. But that BMW will just be eyeing me. So you put it in trust. Some are revocable trusts, some are irrevocable trusts. Those are the two types. But the reason why you put it in trust is that they can't touch it until they get to a certain age. By the time you're 30, there'll be some common sense, or there'll be some maturity. You just realize that if you get that BMW, because of your age, the insurance will be even higher than the car note. But you know, when you're young and very smart, things happen. So, with probates, when you talk about wills as well, you have probates, which is, you know, like deputy here can tell us a little bit more. Those are decisions that are made by probate courts. That is, if somebody died intestate. So it is always good to have some kind of will if you have assets. If you don't have assets, So,
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So say, for example, parents who have assets. So I was speaking to somebody, and I can't remember it because it's been years since I've done it. For wills and inheritance, for example, when you have parents who have assets, is it apparently good to gift your children the assets like early? Because if there's a certain time frame, for example, I can't remember the time, it's like maybe 7 years. If you last more than 7 years after you've gifted your children those assets, they won't pay a massive inheritance tax. However, if the parents die within 7 years, they pay a certain amount of taxes on those particular assets, for example.
Yes. Excellent.
So what about maybe advising people about gifting your children things earlier, so that, you know, when you do eventually pass, your children are okay, they're not paying huge fees and taxes.
I said thank you so much. That's a very important question. It's asking whether it is a good idea to give gifts to your kids so as to minimize your tax exposure. Absolutely yes. The reason is this. I said earlier on that one of the things that is assured in this life is taxes. If you leave an X amount of asset, you will have tax obligations based on that asset. So to help mitigate some of that, what a lot of people do is you give them cash while you're still here, or you help them to settle. Do you understand? If I go to my bank now and withdraw £10,000, they're not going to ask me. They may say, "What do you want to do?" "Yeah, I'm flying. I'm going on holidays." "Oh, okay." If I give you that cash and you start to put it in your account gradually, if you put 10,000 in your account when they know that your account is always zero, they may ask questions. But if you put 200 today, 500 today, gradually, guess what? Nobody's going to know. But then, if somebody on the other hand were to die and you left a property, say $1 million or £1 million, by the time that those issues that we mentioned, wills and probate and stuff like that, HMRC has to make a determination as to what is the worth or the value of each one of those assets. Now, that is if your kids get along. If your kids don't get along and they decide to contest the will, lawyers will love you. Because it means they will eat. And while they're going through all that, each contested will, guess what? There'll be consequences because somebody has to be paid. But if you state each one of those things and go, let's say you have 3 kids and you say, okay, the eldest should get 40%, middle should get 30, this one should get 30. You've stated your wishes. Do you understand? But then, if you don't have a will, it's a free-for-all. The government will take their share. The kids get something. They may be very disappointed. They may not get much. But what I've seen a lot of people do is that when they're still alive and young and stuff like that, they give gifts to their kids to help them set up in whatever direction that they want to. That would reduce the amount of their value or net asset when they die, because your taxes is based on a portion of that. But because you already spent the money, guess what? There isn't much to tax to begin with. So to answer your question, a lot of people do that, especially those who have a lot of assets. Or they may even change property names. So whatever property that they have, they may take it from an individual name to a joint name. Do you understand? But then you have what is called the time. Because you can't say because you're 65 right now, then you put every asset in one kid's name, and then you kaput, and they just go, that forbearance period is not long enough. Do you understand? So the kid may have to pay a lot of inheritance. It's called inheritance tax. Okay? All right. Financial planner. I want you to write down this website. It's called unbiased.co.uk. Unbiased.co.uk. You should look towards getting a financial advisor. But please ask the necessary questions first before you select a financial advisor. Ask them, what do they charge? It's your money. Do you understand? See their recommendations. See what they say. See what advice that they give you. Okay? But you could go to that free website and they will use your address or location map to give you like a range of financial advisors in your area that you could feel free to choose from. The last but not the least, I call it a millionaire mindset. One of the things you're going to learn in this life is called needs and wants. See, millionaires are only millionaires because of one reason. Millionaires don't waste money. You know those who waste money most? They're poor people. Your needs versus your wants. When we talk about needs, those are things that you cannot do without. If you have a car, it is important that you buy gas or petrol. Without petrol, that car is not going anywhere. If it's one of those electric vehicles, if you don't juice it up, the car will not move. But a lot of us will think something is what we need. Is actually a want. And sometimes we often misunderstand that and we waste a lot of money on unnecessary stuff. Some will even give you an excuse, oh, when I was young, I went without a lot. So right now, I'm compensating myself. You're going to compensate yourself for the next 35 years? How much do you want to hold your parents responsible? What? If your parents didn't have anything, so what? That doesn't mean that you should live in a poor person mentality. You must equate everything. You must put it in monetary value. Then you would have a better idea what you're trying to do. Because when you talk about needs, is a car a need in London? Or is it a want? It's essential. It's much more, if you live in central London, it's much more of a want because there are modes of transportation everywhere. I have not driven in the last 2 months. And you know what? I have not done that in my entire life since I left England. Because, like I told my good friend the shepherd, I said, I'm going to get this freedom pass and I'll just take one to Kent and I just have them drive me back just for the fun of it. Why should I pay when it's free? They said, you have a freedom pass, don't come before 9:30. You're retired. What are you doing there at 7:30 anyway? Why? Are you going to work? You're just disturbing the kids who are going to school. So here's the truth. Is that lovely fur coat, is it a want or a need? Your wife is 28, she's slim, size 8. You get that fur coat, and now the kids come. She's no longer 8, she's now size 12. So what are you going to do with it? Most of the things that we spend our money on are actually wants. They're not needs. They're not things. If you really look at it, our needs are very small. You need soap. You have to bath. Or else you will smell. But then, do you need to buy Eagle soap from, what's that hotel? Claridge's? And one bar of soap is 600 pounds? You really need that? A spring soap would do the same justice. Just get you a good sponge. Do you need 15 suits? Even those who work in the bank, they have a blazer. You put a nice shirt and pant, you put your blazer, you're in good shape. But some people, they buy suit. You've heard of the name Imelda Marcus? She had over 1,000 shoes. Where are you going to wear it to? One shoe will do the job. 1,000 shoes? Ha! Is it a need or a want? And that's how you have to look at a lot of things. Do you really need it? And sometimes our needs are a lot smaller than what we really, 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 really need to do. But a lot of it is what we want. Oh, I don't want my wife to be happy. I don't want my wife to be upset. I get her a trinket. I get her a choker. Oh, she doesn't like 9 carats. You know, it's going to be top of the line. And you buy top of the line and you can afford it. Now you're getting really nasty phone calls. Is it really worth it? So you have to think as a millionaire. From what we have discussed today, investing £500 a month over a 35-year period would make you a millionaire. That's almost guaranteed. But you could start with £20, you could start with £25. But this is the thing with investment. When you do investment and it becomes part of you, it will be like, when you take your shower in the morning and you haven't brushed, something is missing. That's how investment will be part of you. Investment is what can make you rich. And don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's why you have different pockets of investments. So that if one does not do very well, you have another one that will do excellently. And if you aggregate it over a period of time, guess what? It'll be worthwhile. Houses that were sold here. I think Shepard was showing me just right here on Telford Close. When we came in 1998 for 140. Right now, there's one I saw at the back here, 600,000. And that's what? 25 years later. Guess what? You can say, oh, I wish, I could have, would have, should have. It's nothing but stories. You have to decide to do it, and you have to go for good. Those who go to the Olympics, they practice. Guess what? You can't just wake up in the morning and just stretch and just show up on the track. It doesn't work like that. Practice takes time. Yes, sir.
In terms of investments, what would you say is an investment that you would recommend? So from your point of view, so you say £500, start with £20. Where would you recommend putting our money into if it was to come from your advice?
Okay. Thank you for asking me. First thing I'll do today, if I've not done anything before, is I'll open an ISA as soon as I get home. Okay? The ISA, the interest on the ISA is very small, but it has government guarantees. First, I'll go and open an ISA so that I can warm up. When you go to the field to exercise, they tell you to stretch a little bit. So I'll start with £20. I'll take it to £30. I'll take it to £40. If I like what I see, I'll put a little bit more. Then what I'll start to do is I'll start to look at mutual funds. I won't buy stocks right away. Do you understand? Because you have to do research. If you buy the wrong company, your money can go down. You will look like you went to the casino. Do you understand? And if you do that, that will be very discouraging. With ISA, you are not going to lose money, guaranteed. Okay? So when you start with ISA, now you have to do the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting is you have to do research. All these things are in banks. All these things are in the libraries where you could read research. If I was any of you young ones, after ISA, the next thing I'll do is Unitrust. So I'll get in touch with a pension company or the one at my job and tell them that I want to do Unitrust, because under current laws, you could put in a maximum of £300 every month, and the the government will add 29 pounds for every 100 pounds that you put in there. So the payee that you pay, they would pay you back. So instead of, what a lot of those companies do is, instead of you paying them 300 pounds, they will reduce the 300 pounds by that tax amount because they're going to get that top up from the government. I will do that. So I already know that 300 pounds is going in there, multiplied by 12, 3,600. So I'll do those two first. Then I will start to research. Every of my friend has iPhone. What is important about iPhone? Now, each company now prints what is called their financials. It is all online. You want to look at their income, you want to look at their expenses, you want to look at their plans, you want to look at their growth plans. Right now we have iPhone 13, we're about to have iPhone 14. And you know some people, any new iPhone that comes out, they're going to buy it because they are addicted. What is good about their product? Why do people spend so much money on it? Those research, they're not research, they just do and live. You're going to keep doing the research. You're going to keep doing the research. If I look at England, what is important in England that everybody cannot do without? Here, it's going to be cold. It's guaranteed. Guess what? I look at companies that invest in coal, nuclear, energy. Because guess what? You're guaranteed that every November, December, January, it's going to be cold. Do you understand? And people here, in the olden days, people were addicted to oil. Now people are moving to what? Electric cars. I'll start to research it. Don't forget, it is your money that you already worked hard for. Don't just invest anyhow. Invest in what you understand. Me, I don't have cryptocurrency. None. Because I don't understand it. It looks too much like too volatile for me. And what I can't see with my own eyes, I'm not going to invest in it. If I buy shares in Royal Bank of Scotland, all I have to do is to drive past the branch is still there. Okay. I know my money is still safe. You with me? So invest in what you know and what you understand. If you don't understand anything, don't let people tell you that is the next in thing and you just put your money into. Do you understand? It is a sure way of losing money. But I will start with those two things. I'll do ISA first. You're guaranteed because that's a warm-up. Then I'll look into unit trust through a pension company. It might be through your job. It might be one of those that is online. Because for every 30%, let's say 30%, 3 times 3 is 20, 3 times 3 is 9. So for every 300, you're only going to put in about 210, and they will invest 300 pounds for you. Are you with me? That is sure banker. Do you understand? And you don't have to do 300. You could do 50. You could do 80. You could do 100.
Do unit trusts come with time stipulations? So is there a certain amount of time that you can't take your money out or
Thank you.
cash?
You cannot take your money out until you're 55 or older. That was put in place by Mrs. Theresa May. So after Theresa May and David Cameron, it became law. Before, you couldn't take it out until 65. Now, it is 55. Do you understand? But then don't forget our first example in that the longer you leave the money in there, because of time, value of money, and compounding, your money grows, and even the interest on it does what? Grows as well. So I will start with those two. But what is important is this: it's your money. Invest wisely, research it, and get a good understanding. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming. God bless you.